in the Bible, it talks about the rapture happens, would there be a trumpet sounded, but there's also Jesus coming with a shout. And so understanding in the Bible what it means for Jesus coming back. So first off, one interesting thing to note is Jesus comes back twice, so to speak. His second coming. The first time he comes back in the air. That's when people say that's when the rapture happens. And the second time he comes down to the ground, and that's where he fights the final battle of Armageddon. In between these two times is a 7-year period known as the 7-year tribulation. The first 3.5 years, they're not so great, but the last 3.5 years, that's like the Great Tribulation, which is really horrible, which is all the Mark of the Beast stuff. All of this obviously is in Revelation, but all I have to say is there's a 7-year time period in between that is considered the tribulation, where the things like the Mark of the Beast happens, Euphrates dries up, etc., etc. So I wanted to point that out. That is important to remember, that Jesus comes back twice. The first time he comes back in the sky, that's he kind of comes up and he, vacuums via magnetization, whatever, our souls, boom, and then we're up there, wherever up there is, and then the 7-year tribulation happens on earth, and then after the 7 years, then everybody comes down, and then there's the final battle of Armageddon, and then there is a 1,000-year reign of Jesus on earth, and Satan is locked up. I'll revisit that in a little bit, but first, let's go ahead and get on to, let's just break it down. So I'm going to break this out. This is, 233 years. So why is this important? There is the idea that Jesus Christ will come back 2,000 years after he left. There's an idea like, well, is it from when he was born? Is it from when he was crucified? There's another thing to consider, which I don't know, I haven't heard that many people say, but I'm going to bring it up, and that is from when he ascended. So when Jesus, after he was crucified, he was buried in the tomb, and then he came out, he hung out for about 40 days before he finally went and caught a chariot ride back up to heaven. So consider that. So there is a period of about 40 days after approximately the weekend after Passover to consider for timing and all this. So let's move on to the next slide. All right. So I'm going to throw this out here. About plus or minus 3 years. A 0 year. Going to get into that in just a moment, or rather the lack thereof. Reasons why there is a plus or minus 3 years for when we may be just trying to be precise, accurate, whichever, or both. Okay, anyway. Historical precision dating. As far as we know, Jesus' crucifixion was in 30 AD. I've also seen it as 33 AD. So there is right there 3 years of, well, do we have our dates correct or not? And as that's what I've put down here, it allows for the crucifixion to be in the years between 30 and 33 AD. Cool thing about all this is there are historical documents. Rome kept a lot of historical documents because they were Rome. And a lot of these things corroborate, and that's where biblical scholars have been able to get these dates. So here we go. We're going to talk about the 0 year. We know BC and AD, before Christ, Anno Domini. I don't think I'm saying that correct. I'm thinking of Domino. But regardless means in the year of our Lord. And so right now we're in the year 2023. I know there's in the Common Era stuff, and it honestly just applies the same if you walk with me for a second. So it's 2023. So is that 2023 years after Christ was born? When was the 0 year? Because there was not a 0 year. So let's take a look at it. It wasn't like all of a sudden people counted down. It was like, okay, this is the year 0, or that suddenly Jesus is born. Like, oh, okay, well, Jesus is born, so now it's year 0, and a year from now it'll be year 1. Do you see where I'm going with this? Or, oh, Jesus is born, so now it's year 1. This is a backdating. The Hebrew calendar had been going on, counting towards in time, There was a countdown from the prophecy of Isaiah, but the reason why we have BC and AD is historical scholars had made it that way for centuries, and we need to understand that there was not a 0 year. So in the year from 1 BC is a better way to look at it, would be 0 AD. So from 1 BC to 30 AD, that would be 30 years. Okay. If this year was, I'm not going to confuse it. So just consider that 0 AD, if you're going to go back in time, tick, 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 as soon as you go from 1 AD, and then as soon as you're going to go to 0 AD, you just go straight to 1 BC, and then you'll count in the other direction. So that'd be 30 years, 0 AD, 1 BC, and then 2 BC, 3 BC, 4 BC. So 30, 1, 2, 3. That gives you 33 years. So that is giving us the date of Jesus' birth as 4 BC. You're like, well, wait a second. Why is it 4 BC? Shouldn't it be 0 or 1 BC or 1 AD for the birth of Christ? And that's kind of why I brought up the, well, I don't have it, but a margin of error is just historical and precise dating is what we're working with. And it's the best guess. So, because historical records indicate that Jesus Christ was more than likely crucified in the year 30 AD, then the year is 4 BC. Now, when I was growing up, I'm still growing up, but I guess when I was in elementary school, I got to go to a Christian school for a little bit, and it was pretty neat. And I think I heard that it was 3 BC was the date. Here's the other one with the 0 year. It would just kind of, right. I was kind of thinking, just a weird question. Would the 0 year, if it did exist, would it be BC or AD? Okay, moving on. So, let's see. Right, so we need to figure out what year are we looking for, and also why. So if we stick with this, here's 4 BC is, we're going to assume that this is kind of our standard. This is our best guess. Born in 4 BC, crucified in 30 AD, and then here we are, 2023 is assumed for him coming in the sky, the rapture, then all of a sudden all the Christians go up to wherever it is, while everybody who's left on earth suffers the 7-year tribulation. And then 2030, Jesus comes back with everybody on earth, and that fights the final battle of Armageddon. Then there's a 1,000-year reign, and at the end, and during that 1,000-year reign, the devil is locked up. At the end of the 1,000-year reign, the devil comes out for a little bit, for whatever reason. I guess people have to be tempted and whatever. Then after that little short period is over, then Jesus completely annihilates the devil. That is completely done forever, and then it's infinity with God. And that's that. That's probably the best, not recollection, of Revelation that I've researched. So that's that. So I want to bring up these 2 dates because that's important. Because this is also based on the belief that the rapture would occur before the tribulation happens. There are 3 schools of thought. One school of thought is that the rapture happens before the tribulation. The other one that happens in the middle, and of course the other one is that the actual rapture happens at the end. And there are a lot of reasons for each one. But this is based on, just for this exercise, believing that the rapture would happen before the tribulation will occur. So I just broke down a chart. And so if Jesus is born in 4 BC, like I said, then he's crucified and resurrected in 30 AD. And then we're going to do that plus 2,000 years, gives us 2030 from the crucified and resurrection date. And take 2030, and that the idea is that after 2,000 years is when he comes back to reign. Like, he's coming back, because the first time he comes back, the rapture, he's in the sky, which would be 2023. And then all the Christians would be gone. It's hell on earth for 7 years, and then it's 2030, and he comes back to reign. So that's what this chart is. So this is like the rapture year, if you're thinking it's going to be a pre-trib rapture. And if you are just waiting on when Jesus comes back to just finalize everything, then it would be this column here. So there's that. I'm going to bring this one back in a second, but what time of year is also a consideration. So kind of brought up birth. Would Jesus Christ come back 2,000 years after he was born? It's a possibility. Granted, that would mean that we're well within that, because that would have been 1,967 years from then, so I think that would have already occurred. However, it is important to consider the birth time of Jesus, because if he was born in October, then he would still be 33 in the following year. And so all of these dates right here, all of them get a +1, because Jesus Christ could still be 33 years old in 31 AD. And so even though it says born here in 4 BC, well, if he's born in the fall, it could be in the spring of 31 AD, and he's still 33 years old. So I know we're like, oh, well, obviously, Mike, we didn't do 2023. And even though people are saying it's going to happen in September, there's a reason why I kind of don't think it's September. I'll get back to that in a second. But I just want to let you know that even though I don't think that it'll be 2,000 years from his birth, it is important to know when he was born, because we know that he was 33 at his at the resurrection. And so that just kind of helps for some context. As far as the actual birth date, a lot of scholars say it's October-ish, early fall, that it's not Christmas. Obviously, I saw one was like maybe early January, but for the most part, I think it may have heard spring, but for the most part, the most that I've heard as far as the assumptions I'm going with here are the best, literally the best guesses that I have heard, and that is early October. Crucifixion, resurrection, I already went over that, 33 AD or 30 to 33 AD. The other one is the ascension. So they said it wouldn't be, some people think, well, is it after the crucifixion, or is it after is it literally going to be 2,000 years after he has left from the last time he left? And the last time he left would be after the resurrection. It was like, okay, so it's the weekend after Passover. He goes to Pilate, whatever. He gets the cat o' nine tails on his back, and goes to the cross and hangs there for, I guess, a day or two. And that's when he has a conversation with the thief on the cross. And then he's punctured in the side. Even like the Roman soldier was just like, surely this is the Son of God. And then he dies, and then they take him down, they bury him in the tomb, and then the people go to see him in the tomb, and the tomb has been opened. The stone has been rolled away. And so he comes back, and he does some pretty cool stuff, honestly. It's kind of funny, because he has this ability to kind of disguise himself, like he's walking with some people, and he's like, hey, so what you guys talking about? Because they're talking about Jesus, right? And he's like, oh, what you guys chit-chatting about? So somehow he like disguised himself as he's walking along, and like, oh yeah, there's like Jesus, and you know, he's crucified and this and that, and then suddenly he's just like, hey guys, and like, and then they suddenly recognize him. I don't know, I just thought it was really funny. He comes back, he eats some fish, he hangs out with the apostles for 40 days. So we know that it's 40 days afterwards. So that would be the last week of April, however many days are left there after Passover, full month of May, which is 31 days, and that leaves a few days for the beginning of June. So my estimation, if it's 2,000 years from any period of time, it's going to be 2,000 years from the beginning of June. First several, not even the full week of June, but the first few days of it. Oh, and I wrote that. It would have been so much easier just to read. taking me so much longer to say it. Anyway, so going back to the chart. So we've already gone through, obviously, we know that 404 BC could still be 2024. So we still have next year. So if the assumption is, let's just say by June 10th, which would be before June 10th, that's way too long. But we just say June 10th. We've already passed it 2023, so there's still next year, 2024, and on. And that would be the dates for the rapture. And this would that's the final second coming, like, it's here. So there's that. I'll put this over here if you just want to take a look at it, think about it. That's it. So the years to anticipate ultimately is now to 2027. I guess that's it.